Hello, welcome again back to Theories and Methods of Information Systems. My name is Professor Richard Boateng, and I'll be taking you for this particular course. Today is session 2 of our course, where we continue our discussions on research frameworks, theoretical and conceptual frameworks. We will delve into different aspects of what we did last week. We will go into schematic representations of a theory, and then we'll look at how theories are used by researchers in research, that particularly information systems researchers. Um, what we are drawing from is information system theories for students, researchers, and then practitioners. It's a free book that you could actually just download. You can write to me for it, and I'll make it available to you. The other one that we have been looking into is the other book we were looking into is Research Made Easy book, which I introduced last week. But last week we talked about what a research framework is, and I tried to explain that the research framework tends to frame the research activity that you are going to carry out, or that endeavor you are taking you have taken up. One of the things I mentioned is that the word frame is that it kind of gives the limits of what the work is going to do and what it's going to do, what variables is going to talk research on, what are the relations between those proposed variables, and that's what a research framework does. It doesn't mean that every research has a research framework, but every research has some frame for the research. It might not necessarily be like a framework that is drawn schematically. It could even just be the basic questions that are being used as to frame the research. But most often or some researchers tend to not draw the questions from a whim. They just try, they make sure the questions are either theoretically grounded or grounded in the literature. So one way the research framework is developed is by picking existing theory, like the theory of planned behavior, or the theory of reason action, or the theory of resource-based theory of a firm that tries to explain how firm may gain competitive advantage through their resources. So you draw on that theory, adapt it or make it much more suitable for its particular work that it's going to carry out. You may pick some variables from the theory, it may drop some of the variables from the theory, some of the constructs from the theory, but it may use all. But use that particular theory and then adapt it to fit the work, and then it becomes a conceptual framework, meaning that the work is conceptualized within the framing of the theory that it has adapted. But sometimes some researchers also tend to draw on the literature. They read the literature, find factors that tend to predict a relationship, or what's the relationship between, let's say, loyalty and consumer behavioral intention, or let's say a relationship between stakeholder interest and then and project outcomes. So the person will then draw that relationship from the literature and pick other particular variables or other relationship and then use that one to carry out the research. So in that particular sense, what tends to happen is that, just excuse me, what tends to happen is that the person who is carrying out the research is trying to make sure that the research is within those limits of the variables they are selected. So we discussed that, then we talked about a theory. A theory is okay. The theory contains variables that are used as general propositions, or which are used to explain apparent relationships in society. So you will see certain constructs that we pick it up, and then the relationship between that they are used to explain the phenomenon, and then that explanation has been tested over time empirically and has been accepted by the scientific community. So we can call it a theory. Now, most often the theories have got constructs that the concept that they are talking about or they're trying to use to describe the phenomenon. Let's just an example of an area of a rectangle. It has a concept called length and it has a concept called breadth. Those two things are concepts or constructs that are abstract in nature, but they tend to govern what the or explain what the area, help us to be able to get to what the area of a rectangle will be like. So the longer side is called the length, and the shorter side is called the breadth. Now, for you to be able to talk about the area, which is the logic of why that theory exists, you have to talk about the relationship between the L and the B. Now, according to the theory, L times B gives you the area. So what we mean by L times B is what we call the associations or the propositions or association postulated between the construct. So if you multiply the L times the B, it will end up giving you an outcome, and that mean the logic of the theory. The theory exists to be able to generate the area of that particular rectangle. But the assumptions around is that a rectangle has a straight length, and it also has a straight breadth. Breadth means that there are straight lines and there is a right angle at the corners. The reason being that if I take a piece of table and I look at the surface, and I want to look at the area of the surface, I am assuming that the length is going to be straight and smooth, and then the breadth is going to be straight and smooth. But sometimes with a table, they may be dense on the edges of the length. So that could even affect the breadth, or it could affect the length itself. But however, with the assumption of the area is that theoretically, if I multiply the length of the table in terms of the surface of the table and the breadth of the surface of the table, I should get the area. So the assumptions are what we tend to assume or accept that this is what is the limits in which the theory is working. So the assumptions about value, assumptions about time. And last week I pointed out some theories have what cultural assumptions. Some theories also tend to have static assumptions and then dynamic assumptions. For example, the resource-based theory of a firm tends to look at a static market where resources are being used to create competitive advantage. But when you have a very volatile market, after some time, that theory was challenged. And now they started talking about what we call the dynamic capabilities theory that try to appreciate the dynamism that happens in markets and what could cause a firm to remain to be continue to be good and stay good, or continue to have a competitive edge and sustain that competitive edge. The resource-based theory alone cannot be able to tell you how to be able to sustain the competitive edge in the midst of turbulence and the midst of volatility. So in a volatile market environment. But it can, for a static market environment, can explain that the resources can be used to be able to gain the advantage. And to some extent, if you are able to protect the advantage, it gives you certain variables that should be there, characteristics of the theory of the resources that can make it sustain. But when you have got a trace of being in a dynamic, volatile environment, sometimes these postulations of the theory or of the resource-based theory can be challenged, and hence other researchers have brought other explanations to be able to tell our firms what to do. Now, theories also have got their boundary conditions where it can be applied at. Some theories can be applied to explain something which is at the individual level, or at the country, at the meso level, or at the macro level. So, for example, when you say capital modernization theory try to explain an economic system. I can't say modernization theory to explain an individual in a home, how he manages his home. But I can talk about the fact that, or even capitalism. Capitalism is also about economic system, but it acts at the macro level, not at the individual level. But I can say that you are a capitalist, who means that you may be exhibiting certain things that shows that you followed the ideals of capitalism. So we need to know the boundary of a theory. We need to be able to understand the assumptions of the theory, the logic of the theory, the proposition of the theory, and then the constructs of the theory. Now, the difference between a theory and what we call a general word of like framework, or we talked about later, maybe after we are getting better understanding in about session 4 or 5. But as of now, understand that the theory general proposition, which are used as principles of explaining, principle of understanding, principle for predicting apparent relationships within within a phenomenon or concerning a phenomenon in society. I give an assignment that what makes a statement a theory, not just a sentence, and then why does the society need theories? What's the difference between a constant and a variable? Which of the building blocks of a theory matters most and why? We'll be discussing that in our tutorial session on this Saturday. Okay, so let's then go straight to the schematic presentations of a theory. How can theories be schematically how have theories been schematically represented in research or in their theoretical forms? Okay, so that brings us to still in chapter 5 of our book that we are using that one to guide us. And then in the first chapter of the other book that I showed you, that's the book on information system theories. Now, there are several schematic representations of theories. Some of the common ones are factor-based theory, a process format, a hierarchical format, a map and coordinates format, and then a gap and analysis structure, or no schematic. Sometimes there's no schematic diagram, but they can be a category or some textual description, or an equation. It can be an equation, or it can be a group of concepts that are put together. So the first one we want to accept and look into is what we call the cause and effect frameworks. Now, the cause and effect conceptual frameworks tend to show the various how various factors affect a phenomenon. Usually, you see them as factors, a dependent variable, and its independent variable. So what happens is that you have factors that are pointing a factor-based model, a factor that are pointing towards an outcome. That's like here we have these factors, 4 factors pointing towards an outcome called unemployment. So we say factors that contribute or cause unemployment. So we are, I'm not saying this is an existing term, but this is somebody's conceptualization from the literature. So in a theory can be schematically represented, or a framework can be schematically represented like this in a research work, where you have one on one side, on the left-hand side, you can have a group of factors all pointing towards or having a relationship with an outcome variable, which are the dependent variable. So all of these are pointing. So you have got low wages coming to unemployment, instability coming to unemployment, lack of starter capital coming to unemployment, and high interest rate coming to unemployment. And this is what we may appreciate as a factor-based model, Okay. Now, but for this particular factor-based model is developed out of literature review. So that means that the researcher read the literature, found different academic work that has been argued on the fact that unemployment can be a society or in a country can be actually be stirred by or can be generated by low wages or influenced by political instability, lack of saving capital, and high interest rates. Hence, the author just drew them and just pointed them out. So we have causes and effect. These are the causes of this effect. So the effect, the causes of unemployment are these 4. That's what it's just telling you. Then you have sometimes, so this one may not show, the first one doesn't show any process, but there are some type of theories that show a process. They show them even in stages or in phases. They can be linear, they can be cyclical, they can even be a little bit of a combination of the two. But well, let's see examples. So this is what we call the organization learning cycle, which is a framework developed by Dixon in her book, which talks about how organizations learn. Now, Dixon argues from what we call the theory of meaning structures, which was also developed by McLean from a dissertation that McLean did. Now, according to Dixon, for organizations to learn, they need 3 types of meaning structures. There's the accessible meaning structure, the collective meaning structure, and private meaning structures. Okay, and sometimes meaning structures is how we create knowledge. So somebody may say that meaning structures can be seen as collective knowledge. Then the accessible meaning structures might be accessible knowledge, and the private meaning structures may be also synonymous or be likened to private knowledge. Now, according to Dixon, in organizations, the organizations learn through the accessible meaning structure or accessible knowledge. That means that when we organizations put in the structures to enable employees to be able to share what they have privately, and then without prejudice, and then give them the confidence and then the ability and then to challenge collective meaning, collective knowledge without any type of prejudice or any type of reprimand, then you are getting we are coming to a state in which there's going to be a higher accessible meaning. And when there is higher accessible knowledge or accessible meaning, organizations can learn and retain the knowledge. So let's see here. So it's saying that the meaning structures are what you hold privately as an individual. Collective is what we accept as an organization about what happens in the organization. For organizations to learn, we should give individuals the enabling environment to share what they know, and then the enabling environment to be able to challenge what is held collectively. That is, in that case, more knowledge becomes accessible, and that accessible knowledge then helps organizations to learn. That he argues out that for it to be able to happen, there should be a process. There's a process of generating knowledge from or information from across across the divisions of the organization, and even externally and internally, and then integrate that particular information within the context of the organization into activity that tend to matter, and empower people to interpret it appropriately and be able to act upon it. If these things work well, the accessible knowledge then became a valuable tool, a valuable asset or resource to the organization. The organization can learn. So that is what Dixon did. If you have opportunity to read Dixon's book, I used that one for my master's, and it was a phenomenal long essay that I wrote. And it's also, I say phenomenal because I got an A in Manchester University. And then, but it's what I mean by the theory itself is very phenomenal in terms of what it can be to explain. Now, sometimes research framework can also be linear. Linear means that it shows a step-by-step process leading to an outcome. So it's not just going to be just a one step, but it's a step-by-step process. So a step-by-step process that leading to an outcome. Now, this is a conceptual framework which was postulated in a paper which was on the impact of mobile phones on micro trading. Now, according to the theory here, if you look at the framework that has been shared here, conceptual means that the person was going to test it. It was developed to explain how traders use their mobile phones and what impact they gain out of it and what benefits they gain out of it. Now, what you see here, the traders adopt the mobile phone. Then, after adopting the mobile phone, they apply it to their pre-trade, during trade, and post-trade. Those three relationships come from economics literature. So you see now we are picking for economics literature. Then it goes to generate certain benefits, strategic benefits, relational benefits, and operational benefits. This benefits framework comes from information system literature about how ICT or technology can influence commerce. So that is what it's coming from. And the author is drawing from that. So by reading the literature, he's drawing from all of these things together. And since mobile phone is a form of technology which is being used in a commerce, trading is a commerce activity. So any technology commerce relationship, looking at the benefits you gain out of the technology, this can be used. So that's why it's being applied to this study. Now, if you look at it very carefully, there's operational benefits, meaning reduced transaction costs and leading and then time efficiency. Actually, the operational relation and strategic benefits discussion that you see here is actually being drawn from a theory called transaction cost theory. So the authors who developed this ICM, the benefit model, the ICT commerce benefit model, try to draw from the transaction cost theory. That meaning that when you in markets, people seek to reduce their transaction costs. And to reduce their transaction cost, they may take certain initiatives. One of the initiatives that they may take is to use technology to be able to reduce the cost of coordination and the cost of motivating actors to adhere to the transaction. And that's the dimensions of some of the dimensions of transaction theory. So the transaction theory has two types of costs: actor motivation cost and then a coordination cost. But technology can help reduce the coordination cost, moving around to find the prices of goods, moving around to find where the products are. Then actor motivation, when I end up finding the person I want to buy with, what motivates me to not to renege from from that particular agreement? What causes me to be logged in into that particular transaction? And these are partly what we call the actor motivation cost. And to some extent, technology can improve the relationship and the communication between the two. That will give you much more of a standard perception, of a better perception of the product you are trying to buy from them, in terms of better understanding of the product, which can also lead to certain service differentiations, certain product differentiation, because I now understand you better, I can differentiate the service to suit you better. And that one can also lead to loyalty and retention of the trading partners in that transaction. So to some extent, that particular model helps you explain that benefits that you can gain in the transaction when you add technology can be operational benefits, relational benefits, and then lead to the strategic benefits. Now, when you look at the last part, it's called the impact. Now, when we add all of this, what impact do we get? This is also coming from the mobiles for development literature. In the mobiles for development literature, a person, two authors, Higgs and Jagon, did a work and they pointed out that when you add mobile phone, the person's livelihood in terms of trying to impact on the person's is used in trying to impact the person's livelihood, you may come out with three types of impact. The first one is the incremental impact or effects, transformational effect, and production effect. Incremental means that the mobile phone helps the person to do what you're doing already. So it has an additional impact, an additional effect. So I was talking to you, but the mobile phone helps improve my communication and the frequency of communication. So that may be an incremental impact. Then it can also be a transformational impact. The mobile phone changes how I do transactions with you, how I relate with you entirely, creating a new creating a new type of engagement between the actor and then the actor being the seller and then the buyer who is trying buying from the seller. So you can change it. For example, when I'm transacting with somebody, I can leverage on something called mobile banking. Mobile banking was not there, but because of the mobile phone, there is now a new banking service called the mobile banking service. And I can use the mobile banking or mobile payment platform to make a payment to you. So that is a transformational impact, a kind of transform the way the market relationships exist. Then there's a production effect. The product itself has an effect. The mobile phone itself uses an airtime. That's credit. In some countries, you call it credit, and it also uses a battery that has to be charged, has a cover, a screen protection, has a cover. Now, all those are product features. Those product features or product characteristics, when we start commercializing it, like selling somebody airtime, selling somebody a screen protector, selling somebody a case, a mobile phone case, selling somebody an earphone. I'm selling you products that are related to the product that you are using. Hence, we call it a production effect, an effect which is actually in the market space that is created by the product itself, being a characteristic of the product. So this has nothing to do with mobile banking or something. It has to do with the product itself as an artifact. I need to be able to buy batteries. So these are spare batteries. And somebody selling battery to me, it's now becoming a production effect. So a trader can enter into the sale of products that are or accessories that are related to the mobile phone. And in addition to what you do in the marketplace, like selling of napkins, selling of toothpick, selling of bowls and pans and whatever, or clothes or food. Now, as he has added a product effect, I'm now asking, once you come and buy this from me, you can also buy that from me. You can buy this product casing from me. You can buy this artifact from me. When you see a market woman doing that, then it's calling you as observing a production effect. By virtue of the product, the person has become a person who is gaining advantage or an impact on the person's businesses because he's also now trading in the product features and the product accessories. So we call it production effect. So in the paper that is written by Boateng, which is me, we try to put all of them into a conceptual framework that we want to study. How are mobile phones used by market women? When they do pre-trade, what do they use it for? Doing trade, what do they use it for? Post-trade. What type of benefits are we observing across different type of market women? And what type of impact are we observing? So that becomes a very good conceptual framework, which after being used for quite by a number of people in research, it can be accepted as a theory by the scientific community. Then we have got hierarchical relationships, a type of theories that are schematically shown in a hierarchy format in terms of the relationship, are showing that certain type of baseline resources have got higher order resources that tend to have an impact on the baseline resources, so or baseline activities or actions. So, for example, in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's a motivational theory that tries to explain what can motivate a person, what can keep a person motivated or motivate people in a workplace. Now, what you see here in terms of this motivational theory is the fact that there are certain motivation is generated by several types of variables in which there's increasing influence on the individual. Now, what psychological effect? What psychological the psychological factors may have a different effect as compared to the safety factors or the belonging factor, the self-esteem and self-actualization. And as you go up, it also changes how the person gets even motivated in an activity or in an action. So at the first level, it's physiological. When a person is thinking about physiological needs, food, water, and shelter and warmth. Those are the four things that could be more necessity to the person and they keep the person motivated in an activity. The next one is that now that he has gained a physiological type of benefits, he wants to establish safety around him. Security, stability, freedom from fear then becomes another issue. Then from there, he wants to find a partner and gain some stability. So belonging in terms of love is another thing. So you like belonging with a family, belonging with a spouse, belonging with a lover, belonging with a friend. Now, if that is gained well, the person then starts seeking self-recognition and some type of respect in society, even at his workplace. So his self-esteem is important. He wants to become the deputy manager or the deputy manager's deputy. He wants to take a position of promise within the society that he is in. And that could actually then comes to the self-esteem. Then the last one has to do with self-actualization, where you think that he has come to a place where he has actualized and he has been able to gain his inner satisfaction is gained. He wants to exhibit more of his creativity and pass on the knowledge. He has come to a point of fulfillment. Now, all of these can happen at people's lives at different stages of their career. At one point in time, somebody can be at safety, but at another point in time, that same person can come down to physiological because the needs for an activity may be different and it could change the person's perception in society. Good. Now you have got belonging, and sometimes even if you're looking at students who finish school and go and do start working, and they may end up being a safety, but then after some time they may even jump the belonging, and instead of getting settling down and finding a lover or finding a spouse, they may jump that one and go to self-esteem. I want to go and do my masters and come back. When I come back, I come and marry you. So you come back, by the time you come back, you want to marry the person is already married. Why? Because whilst you left and you went, the person was also looking for belonging, and the person he will look for options that are available to him or her, and took that option that is available to him or her. But you went on to try and achieve your self-esteem, achievement, mastery, recognition, respect. But that's very different. The person who may be a female may have gained, so now is now married, and that also can that marriage alone. For some people, marriage alone is an achievement and a point of recognition, a point of respect in the community or in the house that they belong to. So abandoning it and going to do a PhD maybe or something that the person never even considered. Okay. So the hierarchy tells you that there are different types of needs that a person may go through, and those two needs tend to apply. Then maps and coordinates. Sometimes we can show theories or frameworks in the maps and coordinates format. I think I've heard about demand and supply curve. The demand and supply curve or supply and demand curve talks about the relation between price and quantity, in which there's one the demand curve has a higher is higher on price at the beginning, and as the quantity is few, and then the when the demand is now coming, and then it's not gain much demand, the price could be very high. But at a point in time, when the quantity is quite a lot, the price comes low because there's all products are optional. People have options, so the cost of the switching costs are low for the person to just switch to go to another place. But however, when supply, you also have to think about supply. When demand is low, the quantity is low, that means the supply too is also low. Then demand could be the demand the price of the product could be very high. Now, in terms of supply, if you are supplying a lot, then the quantity is high, but the quantity can be high, and it could also be everywhere. But the person you can have high supply and higher price, depending on the type of product and what people think about it. But there's a point of equilibrium in which demand and supply are together, are the same point, and that shows you a different aspect of the market space. So the demand and supply curve has been literature for quite some time, and sometimes others use it to be able to do quite a number of different type of research work, especially in economics, um, especially in economics. Okay, so the law of demand supposes that the demand declines when prices are given of a given resource or product or commodity. Uh, when prices rise for a given resource or product or commodity, when demand increases, prices fall. But on the supply side, the difference here is that supply constricts while demand grows as the price drops. Okay, so there's levels of supply and demand for varying prices can be plotted on a graph and as curves, as you can see here. The intersection of these curves marks the equilibrium of the market, or the market clearing price at which demand equals supply, and represent the process of price discovery in the market. Okay. So the key takeaways of the demand and supply curve is that the law of demand holds that demand level for a product or resource will decline as the price rises and rise as the price drops. Okay. The law of supply, as you are reading over as you are looking at it, the law of supply also points out the fact that the higher prices can boost the supply of an economic good, and lower ones can also diminish it. Okay. A market clearing price balances the supply and demand and can be graphically represented as the intersection of the supply and demand curve. The degree to which the changes in the price translate into changes in demand and supply is known as the product elasticity. So the degree to which the price tends to changes in relation to the price changes in relation to changes in demand and supply is known as the product elasticity. Now, demand for basic necessity is relatively inelastic. is less responsive to changes in their price based on necessities in life. They are quite inelastic, but some products are quite elastic. Okay. So quite a number of economic what's the name? Quite a number of economists use this particular theory to be able to explain a lot of things in society. Okay, good. So sometimes when low when you read more about this particular model, you can be able to appreciate the differences in which happen, the differences of in terms of elasticity in the market, and why some products are inelastic and some products are elastic. Okay, so let's continue on with another one. Maybe later we'll come back to this and see how best an IS person can be able to an IS person can be able to apply it in his work. Okay, now somebody may be asking a um question that what's an example of an inelastic product? Inelastic product. Okay. So some essential goods that are inelastic are water, electricity, bread, salt, gasoline, housing, and food. And food. People will continue buying this, so demand is always going to be high, even when prices change or prices are even getting higher, because they are needed for survival and for comfort. Good. And then, so they are insensitive to price. That's what he's trying to point out. In some contexts, even airline tickets are part of it, coffee is part of it, soft drinks are part of it, medical procedures are part of it. Okay, but there are some products that are quite elastic. They are like luxury goods, designer goods, jewelry, designer clothes, sports cars. These products are not essential for consumers and can have substitutes because of that. We call them that they are elastic. When the prices, the demand can change when the prices are going high. Okay. Okay. So your room at a luxury hotel can also be one that can go through demand that type of relationship. Okay. Okay, so now you have an understanding. Let's continue. Good. Now, apart from that, we can also have gap analysis. There's some theories that frameworks which are shown in terms of exposing what exists between the gaps A and B. Now, a gap may show a discrepancy of failure in the phenomenon. And that's what brings us to some types of gap-based theories. One gap-based theory is what we call the service quality model. The service quality model was developed by Parasuman et al. Now, it tries to explain um, it tries to explain how customers assess perception of a service quality. So, in a given service, if we want to measure the quality of service in the perspective of the consumer, we can use the service quality model. Now, in the original tenants, the service quality model talks about 5 key constructs: the tangibility of the service, reliability of the service, responsiveness of the service, assurance of the service, and empathy associated with the service. So, empathy is the extent to which the carrying the service that is showcased or experienced by the consumer tends to be carried on individualized in nature. Assurance is the ability of the staff to inspire confidence and then trust. Responsiveness is willingness to help and respond to customer need. Ability, reliability refers to ability to perform the service dependably and accurately. And then tangibility refers to the physical facility, equipment, and staff appearance, anything that can embody uh, 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 the particular service delivery. Now, service quality represent the service quality model represent the service quality as represent service quality as the discrepancy between a customer's expectation of the for a service offering and the customer's perception of what is being received. Respondents answer to the questions about their expectations and perception, and for which we use to measure the service quality level. Good. Now, because of the simplicity of the theory, it has been applied in so many types of disciplines, for medical, for healthcare, for education, for industry. So many different types of models. So many types of theories have been studies have used this particular model. Okay. So then let's get to the next thing. How do we use the theory? How are theories used in the literature? How do researchers use the theories? Good. Now, there are several ways in researchers use the theories, and I have come up with about 7 ways I've found in literature. There could be more. There could be more. The first one is using the theory as is. The theory as is, it is, you just pick it up and use it. So what happens is that the person may use the theory as is, may pick the a theory like the technology organizational environment, organization and environment framework and use it as is by not changing anything. Another thing is that the theory as a foundation and factors from literature. So the theory will be picked up and then another set of factors will pick from the literature to add to it. Combining multiple theories, somebody may combine two theories. For example, in one of my papers I showed to you the other time, I talked about perceived ease of e-readiness model, that's a PER model, and the CPT from model, which are combined together to be able to study um, which are combined together to be able to study e-commerce readiness in a Ghanaian context. And then combining theories and literature. So somebody can pick the theory and then pick the literature and combine the two. Like the transaction cost theory I mentioned about, we work with other literature from economics, other literature from information system, and together they're able to come out with a particular model that was used in that study. Okay. Now they got multiple theories and multiple literature. Somebody may pick two theories and pick multiple dimensions of the literature and put them together. I've done such severally. I picked that the resource-based theory, and I picked that is other variant. Others have been advocating for it. Dynamic capability, um, the dynamic capability framework, and then or cycle, and then I add it to the literature review, and I'm able to come up with analyze my findings. Okay. Okay. Then we also have literature only. There are sometimes that researchers also just use only the literature. You don't see any particular theory in it. And then sometimes too, the literature itself alone is enough with certain variables in the literature to be able to guide the study. Then there are times that there's not much literature grounding, and there's no theory in the study. The person doesn't explicitly mention the theory or the use of literature and then carry out the study. Now, what you end up seeing is um the theory is not, there's no theory being picked up, but the person carries out the study. And I'll show you an example of all of these. So let's pick the first one, using the theory as is. And the researcher goes about, picks a theory as is, the theory as it is, and apply it to his work. He will not make any changes to a theory. Most researchers will build research questions relating to a theory to make it easier to relate. Okay. Then the researcher will build the research questions based on the theory. So let's take an example. I was trying to get the example to come. Now here, this is a paper by myself and then one of my former PhD students, Dr. Hans and Dr. Anson. Dr. Anson and I worked on a paper called Organizational Adoption of Telecommuting, Evidence for Developing Country. What the paper was about is to try to investigate the technological, environmental, and organizational factor. You see, the TOE is all straight inside, as is technological, environmental, organizational factor, and that influence telecommuting adoptions, and to also examine the potential benefits of adopting telecommuting in operations of operations of Ericsson Ghana. So it's very straightforward. The T, the O, and the E is what I'm studying. The T, the O, and the E. So you see it being put there. Now, what is quite interesting in here is the fact that let's pick up the paper. So I go into my paper, I look in the use of theories. There's a telecommuting paper is here. I'm going to share my screen so that you can have a look at it. Okay. So I have it here. Share from here. Okay, so let's continue. I'm going to pick it up. So this is the organization adoption of telecommunity in evidence for a developing country. Okay. The TOE framework was used as a guiding lens, That's how you see there. So you see that there's a whole section as you go through, there's a conceptual approaches to telecommunity study. They review existing approaches that are there. And I use the TOE. So I mentioned the TOE as an adoption framework has been studied. Okay, so I think I see that. Has been the TOE as an adoption framework has been studied comprehensively in information systems research with regard to factors that influence organization adoption decision. It is consistent. It has a consistent support from a solid theoretical basis, which makes it possible for application in various studies in information systems innovations. As a result of the explanatory power of TOE, it has been used in extant research across different contexts, including technological, industrial, and national contexts. A number of studies on technological innovation have been used in this framework. These studies include the theoretical learning, okay, and then e-business, and then cloud computing. Okay. So it keeps on mentioning this one. Okay. Coming from a backdrop of instances cited above, Tong and the review of theories on the nature of technological innovation, developed an integrated model to study the adoption of information system by business. His model consists of primary variables that were contextually selected as features of the information system and the characteristics of the decision maker, as well as the environment and the environmental as well as the characteristics of the organizations and the environmental characteristics as primary dependent on information system adoption in the small business. A question, a questionnaire survey of 116 businesses was used for the study. Figure one outline of constructs of the TOE framework. Okay, so it shows you how the TOE framework was actually conceptualized. Now it talks about the technological context, talks about the organizational context. Then environmental context, and then we have the rest in here. What we see here is proposition one, proposition two, and proposition three. Okay. Okay. Sometimes I pause for people to get in touch with what we are doing. Okay. So in this study, what the authors did is that they applied it to their work. They looked for the data, and by the time they finish and analyze it, this is what they found. They were able to find out that in the environment, household characteristics and the community issues tend to influence telecommuting. In the organizational characteristics and job characteristics influences. Then technological trends use technology and convenience were the key things that tend to influence for telecommuting adoption. So at one level, we have the generic model. At the final level, we have how we use it and what was the outcome. That's how it works. Okay. So that's it. The telecommuting being the middle, and then environment, organization, and technology being on the others, the periphery, and being able to link to the telecommuting. Good. So let's look at another one. Okay. So we are going back again to our screen. Next one is theory as a foundation, factors from the literature. So you pick the theory as a foundation, as a main part of your work. You look at the theory, identify what are the shortcomings of the theory, what other variables can I add? Then include those variables in your study. So in a study that was done by Anson et al., one thing that you realize is that they looked at determinants of e-learning adoption in universities using the TOE framework again and then other factors because TOE couldn't capture the factor like the nature of the course, which has to do with the individual. So what happened is that TOE was picked up and then a last one was added called the nature of the course, in which they ask questions based on each of them. So you're going to have the technological factor that we looked at, the organizational factor that we looked at, and the environmental factors. And the final one is the TOE. But the final one is the nature of course, which was added. So so it says the study sought to explore the technological, organizational, and environmental determinants of. Okay, I'm coming. I just want to draw the paper that determinants of e-learning adoption. Okay, good. I think I found it. So let me share the screen and let's see the paper. So this is the paper. Determinants of e-learning adoption in the, in reverse evidence from accounting. So they didn't have a diagram for the work, but they have a schematic diagram for the work for the model, but they explained it in the literature. But when they finished, they drew it out in terms of the outcome model. The outcome model looks like the students, the lecturers, and the administrators. So um, the nature of course is added to the factors that can influence the researchers. As the technological context, environmental context play a very key role. But when it comes to students, all the four play a key role: technological, organization, environmental. Okay, then the last one has to do with the administrators. The administrators, they don't have anything to do with their course, so the course doesn't influence them. So it says that the technological context and the organizational context. Now, what we have seen here is that it's showing you how different stakeholders and the variables that influence them. This was one of the very first studies that was looking at e-learning from a multi-stakeholder perspective and a multi-variable perspective in terms of adoption factors. So there are several, and for each of them, we are looking at how that adoption factors influence each of these institutional collaborators. So we have got the students, the lecturers, and the administrators all in one study, and we are comparing it. Good. So that's one of the benefits of having kind of a complex model that you can draw from the literature to use it. Okay, next one has to do with, let's stop this one and go to the next type of categorization that we will find. Okay, so let's share our screen. Hope you are following and you're enjoying. So I'm enjoying myself. Ooh, 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 ooh. So combining multiple theories. How do you combine multiple theories? So in this particular scenario, the person wants to combine multiple theories. What you see here is that you cannot change the name of the theories by combining them as you are not creating it. You keep the original names and describe this combination. So how do you combine them? Okay. So advancing e-commerce beyond readiness, I looked at what we call the four dimensions of e-readiness in Ghana, and like government, technological, market, and culture. Now, these are very common factors. So somebody said, why did I say you have to even use a theory? But these ones were actually linked to a certain theoretical concept I've been reading. For example, government was linked to culture, which is in the CP, the policy, which is in the CPT framework, and also linked to government readiness, which is in the PEM model. Okay. And then technology is also linked with the CPT, that's culture, policy, and technology. The technology and CPT, and then there's a form of technological artifacts too in the perceived readiness model. Then you also have market orientation, market orientation, market orientation. That the market as a factor also can draw on the readiness of can run the readiness of the market to be able to accept e-commerce. And that one we drew from the perceived e-readiness model. That's why I picked the market variable from. Then the cultural variable is already in the CPT framework. So I picked that one from the culture CPT framework. I saw the culture variable play a key role. Okay. Then let's now look into the next one. Multiple theories plus literature. Let me stop this one and then share my screen again. Okay, so the next one has to do with combining theories and literature. So sometimes a researcher can pick a theory and combine with literature, and that one is also welcome. So, for example, I mentioned I use quantization cost theory, I use the IS commerce, the IT commerce benefits model, and then I use the mobile adoption effects, which is coming from mobile for development literature. I put all of them together and I end up coming with factors that influence the adoption of mobile phones. Okay. So let's take it one by one. This study seeks to investigate the impact of mobile phones on micro trading activities of traders in Ghana. Good. The study aims to develop a conceptual model and analyzing the impact of mobile phones on pre-trade, during trade, and post-trade activities. So let's go in a bit. The pre-trade, the during trade, and post-trade come from economics. So that is one. We have established that. However, you have got the literature that we are supposed to read. So let's look at how what the paper did. So what did the paper do? 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 Mobiles and micro trading. Mhm. Mobiles and micro trading. We stop the share, we share now, share the paper for us to look at what the paper did. So this is the paper itself. I did. And then we go into the mobiles and micro trading activities, conceptualizing the link. So what they did is that they start from here. Look at where they start from. As I mentioned, that you're using transaction cost theory is arguably the most commonly used theory in studying issues relating to assessment of impact of ICT on commerce or trade. Transaction cost described as the cost of running a system consists of two types of cost: coordination cost and actor motivation cost. Coordination cost coordination cost entails coordination entails all the information and communication related costs before, during, and after transaction. It includes the cost of searching for products, sellers, buyers, and negotiating and ensuring contract compliance and post-contractual agreements. Okay, actor motivation costs relate to or entail the cost of having incomplete or asymmetrical information, imperfect commitment in imperfect commitment in a transaction. These costs affect the decision making and enforcement of compliance mechanisms and contribute to loss of contracts and contractual disputes. It is suggested from the transaction cost perspective that trading is primarily about information. It involves the sharing and communication of information, which leads to the exchange of goods and services and the management of relationships between the parties involved. Hence, participants in the transaction seek innovative ways to minimize costs in acquiring assessing, and in communicating information for pre, during, and post trade. Okay. Now, so that is the first part, transaction cost theory. Then to be able to continue, we talk about mobile phones has a potential impact on trade. As technology as a technology product and service, mobile phones have a potential impact on trade and how it is conducted. Okay. Mobile phones consist of features that offer opportunity for diverse functionalities. So we're talking about the features of mobile phone. Some of them include ubiquity, a personalization, localization, instant connectivity. Then he explains these ones. Now, the combination of these, look at the next paragraph, of these attributes and mobile phones in transaction activities and trade has the potential of generating strategic, relational, and operational benefits. These benefits are posited to be the benefits of using ICT in commerce or trade. However, in this paper, mobile phones are the form of ICT being discussed. Operational benefits are this. Then they have relational benefits, and then they has a strategic benefits. So all of these things are being put together to explain. Now the production effect characterize benefits from not using a mobile phone, but trading or selling trading or selling mobile phones itself and its related services and accessories. Production effects may also contribute to transformational effects in the livelihoods of micro entrepreneurs engaged in production activities. For example, it's been documented that in the studies on new livelihoods of women in Grameen village payphone initiatives in Uganda, Bangladesh, and many others engaged in reselling airtime vouchers and prepaid cards. With regard to the market traders, we are more likely to expect incremental and transformational impacts. Production effects may be experienced by traders who engage or expand on businesses to engage in resale. Okay, so the latter one is that in summary, regarding micro trading, traders may use mobile phones in pre-trade and during trade and post-trade activities. So let me point something here. If I'm a trader and I go into the market and I'm doing my trade, I may have to call some of my customers and tell them that I've got new tomatoes. So I'm using as a pre-trade, pulling them to come in. Now, when they come to my shop and they are buying. Whilst they are buying, somebody may ask for more products and say that I need more. When I know that I don't have money, I can call other market women or I can call farmers where they bring the things from. So the farmers then can just tell me that, oh, Charlie Kwame, we are bringing another consignment tomorrow. So that the person can then be confirmed and then tell the consumer about it. So then the consumer can then know that there's some reassurance there. So I can use it to doing trade to communicate even prices of products. And I can use post trade to find out whether the tomatoes you bought are in good condition or they're able to serve you better, whether you need more. So we saw such examples in the study. For example, look at this story here. Some of my customers have scheduled with me specific days for which they will need my tomatoes. I have therefore created reminders for them on my phone. See, so that I don't forget them. Now note this one. So this one says creating reminders on the phone so that you don't forget them. They are already scheduled with you in terms of pre-trade, and then you create reminders. Now you're using the phone for a pre-trade activity. I don't need to be at the market every day. Yes, still make money. Most of my customers are in the working class, meaning they do not have much time to come to the market. I therefore call or text the customer periodically and ask them if they need pre-trade and deliver them to the offices. Okay. So somebody says that so supply of maize is controlled by monitoring prices on the market. Monitoring prices on the market during trade. Interesting. Prices determine how much goods should be supplied at the point in time. I'm able to send simple text messages to inform customers on maize prices and delivery times. Oh God. So then he's using the pre-trade during trade information to create another pre-trade transaction with the customer. So what happens here is that I have the product, I've studied the market prices, I call you. So during market transactions and monitoring prices. Then I call you to establish a new pre-transactional relationship. That I establish a relationship so that I can get you the prices that are there. I'm able to send simple text messages to inform them on the our customers on maize prices and delivery times. Customers are also able to monitor track, means that they can call me and that bring commodities to the market in Accra. This enables customers to plan for contingencies. Excellent. 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 So you have the model. You see, one good thing about your theory or your conceptual model when you develop is that it should be able to help and explain the phenomenon you are studying. And this is what this one is doing. It's helping to explain the phenomenon I'm studying. Okay. So this gives us a process-based model. It has showed us how we are able to use the theory, the theory the conceptual framework by combining the literature that we have read and several other theories together. Okay, so now let's look at multiple theories and then multiple literature. Multiple theories and multiple literature. Okay. So the researcher uses concept and construct from multiple theories and combine them into a framework or model by also drawing them from the literature, multiple literature at the same time too. So multiple theory, multiple literature. So what happens here is good. More theories are better so that you can have a concept that do not miss operational definition of every concept. Operational definition gaps can also be identified when you combine as many theories as possible. Okay. So look at this example. I use the title is what the resource-based theory, the resources, e-commerce capabilities, and technology, electronic commerce benefits, conceptualizing the links. I use the resource-based theory, the dynamic capability approach that addresses the weaknesses of the resource-based theory, and the capability life cycle that shows you how to operationalize the dynamic capability approach. So these are three. Good. But I'm also drawing from the literature that exists in the body of work because I can't do all these things with just the theories. I have to also look at the literature. This paper uses the resource-based theory, capability life cycle, to investigate how used car retail firm in Ghana oriented resources to create e-commerce benefits and achieve e-commerce um, to create e-commerce capabilities and achieve e-commerce benefits. Okay. Good. So we're now going to look at an example from a paper. I'm loading the paper. I have to look into it. Okay. So now I'm sharing here. Good. After sharing, now let's look at it. The paper here was written some time ago in 2016. Resources, electronic commerce capabilities, and e-commerce benefits, conceptualizing the links. So if you look at the paper carefully, we talked about defining resources. Then we go on to talk about what the resource is. And then we talked about the fact that firms have got different opportunities in society. And firms may accept different opportunities in the market and take advantage of it, and hence they use their resources. But for the resources to be able to do so, the resources should also have certain characteristics. They should be heterogeneous and immobile. We'll be looking at these later. And then those resources, for it to be heterogeneous and immobile, they should be valuable, rare, imperfectly inimitable, and not strategically substitutable by other resources. Good. So I applied it in my work and I came up with this. At the founding stage, the firm finds the resources that it needs, and then it combines them through learning, coordination, and reconfiguration to be able to generate e-commerce capabilities. That's communication capability, informational capability, and then let me zoom in a little bit, and then transaction capability, and then transformative capability. And those ones generate certain benefits. So if you look at the benefits, just be an endpoint. Now, I also pointed out that when the person when this is generated, what then happens is that at the developing stage, they got to some time that the firm has used the resource for some time, then it gets to maturity. Then it means that the firm has used the resource so much that it becomes very given, knowing as out of tacit nature how to be able to behave or how to be able to be able to generate those kind of capabilities you are looking for. Now, after it gets to maturity stage, either the firm may according to the theory, may either seek to renew. That's coming from the dynamic capabilities. Seek to renew the resource, redeploy the resource into another market, combine the resource with another resource to make it more valuable, or replicate it in another market. Others may also think about the fact they can make so if the resources decline, they may retrench the resource or they may retire the resource. Now, what you see here is a combination of the resource-based theory and the dynamic capabilities model. And that's what I'm trying to use. And this recent expression is which we call the capability life cycle model. And that is where the founding stage, the developing stage, and then the doing stage is coming from. Good. Now, when we finished doing the study, we came up with this particular study framework. I think last week we discussed this, but let me just go through it again. So this is how we use it in different types of the study. We were iterating. Okay. Hey, I'm zooming in too much. Let's see if I can find this. Good. This is it. So the firm's assessment of the opportunities in the market is what we call a strategic profitable opportunities in the market. Is what we call strategic orientation. That will guide the firm. Initially, we didn't have it, but that will guide the firm to pick the appropriate resource, and then to lead to the developing stage, and then to lead to e-commerce capability. And then it will lead to an orienting stage. That means that when you get the capability, you have to now align it with the firm's business and process. We didn't have that. And that will then generate the benefits. And if the benefits are that good, it will then lead to a point in time that you think that the resource has reached a maturity stage. And there you can think about decline or rebuild the resource back into the foundational stage. So that is what is happening. And then all of these things happen within the context, which we call the national context, and has an influence on the whole process. So earlier, we are just looking at the founding, going to developing, and then branching to a maturity, and then giving us e-commerce benefits, e-commerce capabilities and benefits. But we didn't see that there's an interrelation between the whole thing in terms of a cycle. So this is a cyclical manner rather than the previous one that was more linear. Okay. So we have got strategic orientation of the firm going to founding stage, developing stage, and then going to orienting stage, and then coming back to the maturity stage. Okay, so now that you have an understanding of it, this is what we end up generating based on a combination of different literature, combination of different theories, combination of different literature, and combination of different theories. Okay, somebody said, Prof, how do you show that the different literature were in it? Look at it. When the person was reviewing, he even reviewed different types of papers and how they have done their work and then gain insights from there. So look at this table. The research study, theories from strategic management, theories from social technical studies, framework-based approaches. All of these were looked at. So he talked about the focus of the paper, what theory did they use, what method did they apply, what gaps did they leave. So all this were the knowledge was gained from all this type of literature. And some of the literature were using theories that are either process-based theory or the resource-based theory. Others were not using a resource-based theory, but still we can learn from their findings. That's what he's trying to pick from different literature, different theories, and to put them together to be able to come up with your own conceptual model. Okay. So the next one is, let's see, what's the next one? Okay. So now let's look at it. The next one has to do with literature alone. Let's literature alone. Literature alone has to be the factor which contribute or cause unemployment, like I gave earlier. I showed that one earlier. So that one is quite very easy. So let's go straight to literature alone. And literature alone, what I've seen earlier, we talked about combination of multiple theories and literature, but now let's look at literature alone. Shallow. The researcher reviewed literature to identify gaps. Based on the gaps, factors from the literature are brought together to form a conceptual model. Sometimes factors may be based on another conceptual model, not theory, proposed by another author. Okay. So this is one by medical healthcare. Now this is about looking at factors, facilitators, and barriers of patient-centered care in organizational level. At the organizational level, a study of 3 district hospitals in Ghana. Now, the literature was reviewed to develop a conceptual model of facilitators and barriers of patient-centered care. This study is informed by the work of De Scheller. De Scheller, in his work on patient-centered care, what does it take? Establish 7 key factors that contribute to patient-centered care, patient-centered care at the organizational level. So the study tried to assess the organizational level factors that enhance or inhibit patient-centered care in the 3 district hospitals. So how did you do that? What the study did was that, let me just pause this one. Okay. What the study did was to hold. Yep, I found it. Good. Share the screen. Oh, good. So what the study did was to actually pick the facilitating factors against the barriers and then draw kind of a model to explain, a schematic diagram to explain it. So this is how it looks like. Those of you who want to look at it. So the barriers are coming from the study of work of the facilitators are coming, and the barriers are based on the literature. So Charlotte's work give us 7 key factors that contribute to PCC. So that's the facilitators are coming from Charlotte's work. However, the barriers are coming from the literature. And those things come together to be able to create patient-centered care. I was very impressed when I looked at it. Barriers and then facilitators. Somebody can do barriers and facilitators to commerce adoption, mobile phone adoption, or whatever adoption that you want to look into. Now let's try, and I want to just draw on a little bit of literature to be able to point out what I'm talking about. Okay. Conceptual framework. This study is informed by the work of Del Scheller in his work, Patient-Centered Care. What does it take? Establish 7 key factors that contribute to the PCC and organization level. The factors include leadership, involvement of patients and family at different levels, communication of the organizations, PCC strategic vision to members. Okay, creating a supportive work environment for caregivers, and then supportive technology, quality of the built environment. So leadership is an important factor of PCC, and it set the direction for organization by developing and maintaining its culture delivering services and ensuring effective governance. Okay. So it goes continue. Then he pointed out that there are also certain type of barriers. Okay. Let me see where he mentioned the barriers. Okay. Even though Charlotte's work did not consider barriers, so it means that somebody's work may not have everything. Literature has, you see what the word here, literature. That's why I was telling you that sometimes people draw from literature. Even though the Charles work did not, so he put on Charles work, which is also literature. Literature has detailed resource constraints, resistance to change, low employee value, unsupported policies, poor staff commitment and interest, as organizational level factor, inimical to pieces. Okay. So literature has detailed, and this literature is what you're going to use in the work. For instance, human financial resource constraints have been mentioned as challenges to the delivery of patient-centered care, particularly limited staff capacity, insufficient staff, and limited time to set the stage for the patient-centered care, limited office space, and lack of equipment. So all of these things are part of what he points out. And in that case, what the person then does is that he puts the PCC factors together. The primary barriers are here, and then the facilitators are here, and they come together to solve a problem, patient-centered care. Okay. So that is how sometimes when people just speak from literature, they may end up showcasing it in their work schematically. Now let's look at the last one that doesn't have any type of theory. Ooh. So in this scenario, okay. Now, video theory use no videos in learning in higher education, assessing perception, attitudes of students in the University of Ghana. This one, the study sought to assess the perception and attitude of students towards at the University of Ghana towards the use of videos for as a medium for teaching and learning. So this one, when we looked at it, we were teaching a course called research methods, and we did videos like what I'm doing for you, and we get made students give perceptions on what they think about the video they are watching and how it helps them to learn. Okay, so what we then realized is that we collected the data. We didn't have any way of analyzing it by any theory or anything. So we had a question. The question guided us. Okay, so the how does the use of mobile or videos influence perceptions and learning engagement? In what way does the video influence students' attitude toward learning? And lastly, how do students use videos to enhance learning and improve their performance? Simple. The theoretical framework for this study emphasizes the importance of situating video as an instructional medium. So what it's just trying to point out is that we are using this as our theoretical framework, the questions, and we put the questions as our guide. So we want to collect the data, and after collecting the data, we structure the answers to suit the questions. General precision of the video, what the students were saying. I think it's actually useful. There was a time that I missed the class and I had to follow a video to make for that missed class. It was like watching a television series and it was good. That's a female student, 20 years old. Then another student said that with the video, it's like you are relearning everything. You are able to take notice of something new that you have missed in class. You see one thing good. I am drawn to short things like movies and other clips. So video makes learning fun and exciting. Some of the students also, the videos help you to understand whatever is being taught much better. Okay. With videos, if you do not have a laptop, you can't watch. With the energy crisis in the country, you have to go to some place with power before you are able to watch the video lecture. These are some of the other negative parts. So you see, I'm not particularly enthused about videos in general. When I watch videos, I usually fall asleep. So I actually don't appreciate it. I would prefer to read than to watch the video because it's almost the same thing. If I read, I may take time to a minute to understand. But videos, I have to watch about 30 minutes to understand the topic or issue. Okay. That's a very good perspective of the issue. But remember, videos are being used to add to what you are reading. So you can get the audio, you just listen to it as you are moving around. The video environment needs not to be a dull environment, but should be an interactive environment. Okay, so you should animate, you should see the lecturer talking and engaging you. My problem was that it was really long. Okay, sometimes it happens like 1 minute, 1 hour long. People do not like it when things are very long. Okay, so you want the short social media ones. Okay, so in as much as the lecturers want to explain everything to you, they shouldn't make the videos very long. Oh, but one has explained this in detail. But what they teach in class is the same as what you have in the videos. So the content is the same as that of the usual class. Okay. It's just that you may not be able to video because you're not part of the students who are shot in a video. The sizes are large, it makes it difficult to download or okay, get onto your laptop. Okay, perceive learning outcomes. The videos make me understand the topic being taught in detail. For example, at the end of the examinations, I couldn't understand some of the PowerPoints and notes given to us, but I could revisit the videos, and that really helped me to understand the topics better. There are times that after a normal class session, I sit to learn, but I don't realize, and I realize I do not understand one thing or two. But when that happens, I go back to the video and that helps me. It's it's the videos makes learning easy. It made it fun and much easier. Sometimes when I'm in class, I may be tired and cannot concentrate. But with the video, I can watch at my own time. But it is something I can watch. It's something I can watch at my leisure time. There's a test. There's a tendency to be lazy. If I was going for a lecture, I would have been there, but with the video, because I watch on my own, I can actually get lazy doing that. Okay. If the video didn't have a great impact on learning, it didn't have a great impact on my learning. It was normal. Okay. Attitude towards it. I can wake up at any time and watch the videos. I can also watch them on the go if I'm in a bus, and this enables to grab things perfectly. In a non-video lecture, if you miss the topic or lecture, you are distracted momentarily. You may not get the opportunity to get what you have missed. The video lectures help me to recap what has been taught. So that's very, very good. So we saw so many different factors, and based on that one, we're able to do a discussion and come up with certain key conclusions. So in that scenario, what we are realizing is that um, there are different ways of approaching the use of theories in the research. We can either use the theory as is, we can use the theories with use it in a manner that can help us to be able to combine it with others. So we have mentioned the theory as is one, and then we have also mentioned that the theory as a foundation and the factors for the literature. Good, good. Okay. So now I've brought it here, and now let's look at it here. The theories point out that good. When I'm applying them, I can look at them theories as a foundation and factors from the literature, combining the multiple theories, combining theories and literature, combining multiple theories and multiple literature, and then literature only, and no theory is used. So, which of them will I use in my work? There'll be a time that I'll be teaching you, hopefully, how to select a theory, and that will help you to be able to understand this better, how I can differentiate between the two. Mhm. So now let me wrap up by pointing out that the use of the choice as is important when you realize that the theories are sufficient, the theory itself has variability is sufficient to look at your phenomenon. But when it's not sufficient, you need to go in and pick others from the literature. For example, look at this particular one. There was literature that pointed out that the facilitators. And then, but when he looked at it, there were other literature that talked about the barriers. He put them together as the barriers as against the facilitators, and then all of these have an influence, like a force field diagram. All of them have an influence on the outcome, that's patient-centered care, so that you can be able to look at all of the factors together. So that's what he did in this study. Good. So for your homework, and that we'll look at, we'll discuss in the next 2 weeks. Next 2 weeks. That's not this week. Next 2 weeks. That by the 18th of October, you need to submit it. Prepare a PowerPoint detailing 3 different theories: technological theories, behavioral theories, and then managerial theories. So one technological theory. What is a technological theory? A technological deterministic theory, like the technology acceptance model, the UTAUT. These are all technology-based theory. Then behavioral theory, the theory of planned behavior is one. Parasocial theory is one, like theories that have to do with a person's behavior or mutual understanding is maybe one. Then economic theories like demand and supply curve is one that we have seen. We're talking about capitalism. We're talking about there are quite a number of those type of theories too. Resource-based theory is a management theory that looks at managerial issues. Absorptive capacity theory also looks at how people learn from the environment. And then there are quite a number of them. I'll be giving you a theories book so you can get quite a number of these theories from there. Good. Now, for each of the theories, find out who founded the theory and how was the theory developed. That's more important to me. And then the constructs of the theory, the core proposition of the theory, the logic of the theory, the assumption of the theory, there are any of them. And then a paper that was the theory was used in. So you are doing PowerPoint presentation, but quite detailed. eh, your PowerPoint, and it's a group work. Now, the last two slides, I want to see how you conclude by taking up. Now, after you have looked at how the theory, the three different theories were developed, you come up with your own explanation of how a theory developed in your own way. How a theory developed. So, based on the three examples that you have selected, tell us how a theory is developed. How are the theory developed? So that's why I said that look at the originator of the theory, look how the theory was developed, what the person did to develop the theory, and then use that one, use the three papers to come up with three different ways in which the theories are developed, so that we can be able to learn how to develop theory. Then we'll discuss. Okay. Thank you very, very much. And I'm hoping that you have an interesting time reading and understanding what I've taught. If you have any question, you can just ask me whilst you're even watching the video. You can just send me a WhatsApp whilst you're even watching the video, or put in a class platform. I'll answer you. Thank you very much. And thank you for participating in the lecture. Yeah. Um, thank you for interacting. And then take your time. That's why sometimes I break for you to before I move on the slide, I just want you to be able to read what is on there before you go. So please take your time, and then where you need to pause, you pause and then listen to it and then try to understand it. And then ask send questions. Let your questions can put it on the YouTube video you're watching, or you can send it to me via WhatsApp in the class page, and then I can engage with you and answer you. Thank you very, very much. And then au revoir. Have a great weekend and a blessed one. Bye bye. Bye bye.